Yeah, okay. So, Fiona is on the second speech of her level 5 high performance leadership. So, the purpose of the project is for the member to apply his or her leadership and planning knowledge to develop a project plan, organize a guidance committee, and implement the plan with the help of a team. So the purpose of this second speech is for the member to share some aspect of his or her experience completing the project. The time is 5 to 7 minutes, and the title of the speech is An Experience That Makes a Leader. An Experience That Makes a Leader, Toastmaster Fiona.
Thank you, Princita. Since you're my evaluator, you can just mark the timing. You need not show the cards if it's difficult, okay?
Yeah, okay.
On September 15th, 2021, I decided to take up the role of the coordinator of the club collaboration program, quarter 2, as part of my high performance leadership project. 2 years ago, when I served as the VP of Public Relations of Mangalore Club in 2020-2021, I used to think about which other leadership role I'd want to take up in the future. Because I'm naive that way, I like to put myself in uninvited situations. Anyway, the role I thought I wanted to take up was that of VP Education. And this was until the first 3 months that I did my HBL project. I realized then that our members are anything but self-motivated in order to take up the speaker evaluator role exchange. So much so that in my very first month, I myself had to take up the role of the speaker at Kerala Toastmasters Club. Good morning, dear members. I no longer wish to take up the role of VPE. Since I could not find any members for our club to take up the speaker role for the first month, I decided that in my first HPL speech, where the leader, me, is supposed to introduce the objectives, the guidance committee and the project plan, that I would motivate the members to take up roles. So in that speech titled, Will You Say No Again? I spoke about my tryst with Kerala Toastmasters Club, how I took up the role by force, how nervous I was when I gave my speech, and how in the end, it all contributed to a unique experience. The experience which I would never have had I gone out of my comfort zone. Now, I don't know if it was this particular anecdote or my attempt to embarrass those who said no to me, but for the following 2 months, I did not have much of a problem finding role takers for the exchange program. The evaluator roles were taken by Toastmaster Gladys Montero, Praveen Badige, and Pratibha Kamath. The speaker roles were taken by me, Toastmasters Della, and Sulata Pai for October, November, and December, respectively. Now, if you think that my work is done just by finding role takers for the club exchange program, then you are partly right. The exchange works both ways. We also had to accept members from Kerala Toastmasters Club. For every speaker and evaluator that goes out and comes in, there must be a seamless coordination of speech objectives, evaluation resources, speech titles, Zoom credentials and backgrounds, meeting agendas, pictures, certificates, and any other request the TMOD wants to ask the speakers, keeping in line with the theme. I had to personally stay in touch with every speaker and evaluator from both the clubs, 12 in total, in order to coordinate this. And of course, I cannot leave out any objections and obstacles that I faced, last minute dropouts to confusion with the time of the day. One of the KTM role takers was once woken up by my phone call at 7:15 a.m. as a reminder to attend our meetings. And he told me that he thought the meeting was at 7:15 p.m. in spite of the right details being sent to him. Now, my Kerala Toastmasters Club counterpart, Toastmaster Gautam, once told me that he cannot find members to take up roles because our timings were too inconvenient. and that their members find it difficult to get to work after. He didn't understand why and how we got up so early in the morning and attended our meetings. Now, I wasn't going to just let him say anything he wanted. So I defended our club by saying that we normally finish on time and members even have breakfast and then leave for work. I also said that our members find their timings of 7 to 8:30 p.m. on a weekday difficult, as they would be tired after they come from work. When I told our president about this conversation, she told me that each of us gets used to our own club's timings. So it is quite natural that other timings are inconvenient. As leaders, we must try to meet halfway if we want the project to be successful. So by hook or crook, we received Toastmasters Beena Vaz, Linta Jolie and Balachandran Das as speakers, and Toastmasters Joan Rocha and to Dominic and Linta Jolie as evaluators for October, November and December respectively. We also successfully had a joint meeting themed collaboration on 19th November 2021. From learning to motivate others to achieve success to coordinating between many people at a time, my experience has been one of a kind. It was nice to speak in front of a new audience, to know how they sometimes change things up just to mix things, to interact with different types of people for a common cause. But most of all, I learned that leaders must put their differences aside and to look at the bigger picture for their own advancements and for that of those who follow them. Thank you. Back to you.
You took around 6 minutes and 40 seconds, so I think everyone's eligible. And we can move on to Toastmaster Anita's evaluation.
Yes. Toastmaster Seema, please. Yeah, okay. Okay. So good morning once again. And Princita wanted the timing, I think. It is 3 minutes, right, for evaluation? 3 minutes.
2, 2.5 and 3.
3, yeah. Okay. So Seema, what a marvelous way to break a weekend. It is a lengthy, humorous, sorry, a lengthy, humorous speech is all we required, and that too delivered by the humor queen of MTM. Now, we couldn't have asked for anything better. At least for me, you have set the tone for my weekend. Thank you so much. I totally enjoyed your humorous speech today. It gave me a glimpse of yourself from your childhood, your growing up years, your college years, your first job, your first initial marriage years, and finally the philosopher that you have become after 24 years of married life. I'm sure those who are intending to marry and have heard your speech would get a lot of wisdom from it, and could set their married life on a better note. It was totally a kaleidoscope of events and gave us the various facets of your personality, of how you were so gullible, so innocent, and how you simply took whatever was told to you at its value as a truth, and how you were only following the rule that was placed before you as from your strict mother, saying that you have to be obedient to the extent of watering the rose plants of your neighbor, even when it was raining cats and dogs. That really shows how innocent and gullible you were at that time, and how your brother had fooled you on April Fool's Day, saying that your scooty has come gifted by your father. It was actually a string of events, many anecdotes that were stringed together. You brought them together to make it one speech of 18 minutes. You were well within the time. Your language was excellent. I really liked some of the words that you used, stringent and only a wolf's cry. Okay, I like that phrase also. And the way you explained was so clear. It brought that imagery to the mind. You know, we could actually see you rolling out the chapatis with the smoke coming from two tawas that were heated up on the stove. And all those things were really brought pictures into the mind. What I would say you could have done differently is perhaps you could have, instead of giving them as separate stories, you could have woven the whole thing as one single story. Some of the things, no, some of these anecdotes were what we had actually heard earlier. We had heard them earlier. So perhaps you could have, some what shall I say, altered it and brought it out in a different way. Or you could have put the whole thing as one story of one person and brought out the entire. It could have, I mean, it would have been like one single story. But otherwise, superbly done and excellent language, excellent delivery. You truly deserve the title Humor Queen of MTM. Over to you.
Toastmaster Lalitha, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I'll just add you to. Yeah, you can go ahead, Della.
Yes, thank you, Fiona. I hope I'm audible. Toastmaster Lalitha, your speech opening was wonderful, a camp that made me stronger. So when you started with your speech, I also picked up on a lot of words that we usually do not use in our daily conversation. Sankalpa, sattvic food. Now, all this is something that we only go through or understand when we have this when we have an experience, and especially in a camp conducted by the yogic people. And I was wondering how you survived 4 days without mobile gadgets or even coffee and tea. I know for sure that it was a struggle, but you definitely came out stronger. And with your speech, you also learned a lot about team building and strategy, and also how to look after guests. What I really liked was the phrases that you used during your learning, which you shared, and which we also could connect with you. There was also some message that you gave when after you entered the camp, what were the things that you learned? So how to look after guests, what are the different strategies for team building, how to look after yourself. So all these aspects also were wonderful. The fact that you stood and delivered your speech was just great, and it made a great impact on your speech. However, there are a few suggestions that I would like you to follow. At the beginning, when you were giving your speech, you were referring your notes. So kindly avoid seeing your notes down, or at least keep something in handy with you. Avoid etc. in your speech. You can at least speak quite a few things, because there are some elements in your speech which I felt were not necessary. Instead, you could have elaborated on the surprises that you had and what you felt with those surprises. You can also avoid as follows. I'll quickly brief you. So you can, it is a casual conversation. So when you're having a casual conversation, we do not speak like how we give an answer in a viva or write the answers. There was one aspect where I couldn't really pick up on was the fresh juice that you mentioned. So it wasn't very clear and audible at that point of time. So maybe if you can enunciate your words a little more better, it would be much helpful. The content overall was very good, and I could make out that you had a delightful experience to share, and the phrases that you used were also, you were able to resonate with what you went through at the yoga camp. but mainly you could have have a better structure with your content, and you could have elaborated, like I mentioned before, on one or two experiences with your feelings at the camp that made you stronger. And lastly, like you mentioned, you learned many things at the camp. I learned, we learned. We too learned quite a lot about how you survived 4 days without the daily necessities. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Della.
Thank you.
You ready, Princita?
Yeah, 1 minute, 1 minute.
Della took 3 minutes, 21 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Toastmaster Fiona, congrats on finishing both your project as well as this very cool speech. So yeah, so the purpose of your speech was to pick an aspect of your project and the project that you took up, the leadership project that you took up, and tell us about it. And it seemed like you picked up something like, you know, the obstacles you faced as well as how you tackled them and how you came out stronger having finished this project for all of us. So first of all, thank you for that. I really liked your opening, the part where you addressed, you know, the part of the speech where you addressed the people after having spoken about the anecdote, and how you said that, you know, you would not be VP'd. Like, I was like, yes, I think she gets it. So yeah, that was like a cool, effective way to start, and it definitely got us our attention. I was like, yeah, what made her think that? And I'm sure everyone thought that too. So congrats on that. So yeah, through this speech you told us about like the different parts, like you were very clear about the different parts of the project itself. Like you started out with how hard it was to get members, and how you tackled it with like a speech that you made, which I thought was like an ingenious way to carry out your project, as well as like something to include in the speech. That was very smart. Also, yeah, and then like just like uh, the way you arranged your speech with how you started with this, and you're like, okay, I did this, but wait, there's more. There was still Kerala Toastmasters to deal with, and like how you spoke about how hard it was to get speakers there, and not just because it was hard to get speakers in general. It was about the timings, our timings, and then the part where you took a stand about like, no, okay, like sure, we may meet at 7:15, but we have our reasons. So you made it clear that your project was both about like giving and like, you know, pushing and pulling. It needs to be a balance of both. You couldn't just like, you know, go around asking people to please help you out. Like that's not what a leader does, and that you made that very clear in your speech as well. The anecdotes about the person forgetting the meeting and all were also like really added to it. Like, so throughout the speech you spoke in this calm, you know, restrained manner that sort of gave us an insight on how you were feeling during the time also. So these tiny like deviations from the speech about the person forgetting, and like you losing your calm demeanor for a bit, like how did you forget? I gave you all the details. So all that made like the speech like very fun and interesting to listen to. I also liked how you mentioned like the specific dates and who spoke at each meeting and all that. So it actually made us feel like, you know, you gave us an official account of what happened. You told us on this day this happened, I achieved this, it was hard but I did it. So that was a cool way to say it, and like made it also see, you know, pretty serious. What I think could have been better about your speech was, while I loved your opening and I totally agree with it about the VPA thing, I didn't think it quite matched with your title and the takeaway from your project. So like it felt like you were sort of giving up, but then by the end sort of tied it together and spoke about this is an experience that makes a leader, and like there are these things, but you've got to compromise, you've got to like take a stand, like there are all these things to it. So I guess it didn't really match how you started off as well as your title itself. But other than that, I think it was a great speech, and congrats on the speech as well as finishing your project. All the best.
Okay. You overshot 3 minutes,
Yeah.
40 seconds.
Okay.
That brings us to the end.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to say anything? Shall I stop the recording?
Yeah, you stop the recording.